Ultimately, my passion for fitness started with my struggle. So I think there's so much power that food has over us, more than we actually think. I mean, if you're at rock bottom, I mean, there's nowhere else to go. Inflation's always going to be there. It's the invisible tax that we don't talk about. So if you're not moving your money around, your money's dying. You know, calories are just like a bank account. Knowing I could eat whatever I want as long as it fits within my energy requirements really gives me peace of mind. How could I get through the week? How could I train all these people and then just like do drugs and alcohol on the weekend? And then, like, you know, where is that going? Where's that money going? Into my liver and into my nose, if you know what I mean. You aren't clear on your finances because it's not moving around as much as you think it should.
Tell me about the pain.
Wow, that's a deep question.
Jared, Aquilina, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking your time.
I appreciate it, man. I'm excited to be here.
It's my pleasure. Jared, we don't know anything about you. Actually, I see you around all the time, and I love your work. I love what you're doing, especially like online with trainers. I think that's very cool.
Yep.
It's a very great idea. We're gonna talk about your fitness journey.
Okay.
A little bit. Walk me through your journey when it comes to fitness, and then we're gonna talk about financial situation.
Okay. So in terms of my journey when it comes to fitness, I think it started when I was, preteen. I grew up overweight, or obese actually. So I was about like 40 to 50 pounds overweight. Going into high school, that was just a big sore spot for me, very insecure about my body, how I felt. Wasn't comfortable with friends, wasn't comfortable talking to girls, anything like that. And I really needed to make a change in my life to feel comfortable, and not to get so personal right off the bat, but like there were times like in middle school I would cry in the shower based on how I felt about my body. And I guess you could say we have like certain public image or societal image to feel and or to look a certain way, but I still didn't feel good, and I can't really differentiate that at the time. But so my whole journey started with me losing 40 pounds from Weight Watchers going into high school. And I remember I used to go to Weight Watchers with my aunt, and every week we had to weigh in Monday, and then I was the one that they would call upon to talk to everyone in front of the class because I would always lose the most weight. I was also the youngest person, it was all these like middle-aged moms. But like, I stuck to the plan, and I actually learned the value of counting your calories because they had the whole point system. So I saw a lot of my success early on, with my body, just because of the way I felt and my desire to change. And really, even I've heard on this podcast, like it really comes down to your desire to change. And, I had it then at a young age, and I felt the power that it gave me, the confidence that it gave me. And that's really where I had the idea to be like, hey, maybe I could make this a career for myself. Maybe I could be a trainer or, work in strength and conditioning. Originally, that's what really I wanted to do, was strength and conditioning for athletes. But ultimately, my passion for fitness started with my struggle.
I want to talk about that struggle a little bit more.
Yeah.
Let's go back.
Okay.
So when did you realize that you were starting gaining weight? And do you know from this perspective why you did that?
Wow, that's a deep question. I noticed, my tendency around food was, I would like hoard certain food or like, obsess over certain foods, or even if I had like ice cream in the house, I would just have to eat all of the ice cream. I would struggle with binge eating. I think it sort of comes in my family a little bit. My mom and sister kind of struggle with that. They're in good shape now, but it's always kind of run in my family. My father was morbidly obese. He passed away a while ago, but just from poor health choices. So, seeing him, how he treated his body, how he felt, physically and obviously mentally, I never wanted to be that way. And I kind of saw myself going towards that. And that was just something I needed to get away from. And I've mentioned this before to other people, and I teach this to my clients. I teach this to my financial coaching clients. Oftentimes we're more motivated by pain and getting away from pain as opposed to things that we want to strive for. We all want to be fit, we all want to be rich, we all want to, do those types of things, but really running away from things are going to motivate us more than, what we want to achieve.
Yep. Very deep. Tell me about the pain. When did you realize you feel the pain? What kind of pain did you feel? Were you also aware 100% of that kind of pain, or you're more aware now than you used to be before?
Yeah, I think I'm more aware now. Obviously I'm older. I'm in my mid-30s. I'm more mature. I have more time to reflect on it, just from like life experiences, right? But going back, it was, I always felt like I was a victim, and I had like anger issues because of how I felt about myself. I had low self-esteem, so oftentimes I would lose friends over that type of lack of self-esteem and get angry with people, because really I was just angry with myself because I didn't have a lot of control over my eating, and how that kind of like trickulates into your social life, So I think there's so much power that food has over us, more than we actually think. But yeah, all of that type of stuff I recognized later on, my 20s and 30s now. But at the time I was just a naive kid, I guess.
Okay, so you experienced that pain, and you wanted to change. When was the time when you were in the lowest and you were like, okay, I have to change? And what actually happened? Did something happen to you and you experienced that pain? Because usually that pain drives us a lot to change. That's
Absolutely.
kind of the only way for us to change, to have a huge change. I'm not talking about like a regular fitness goals for our clients who just change small things and they lose weight or they gain muscle. Those are like small changes. But I'm talking about huge changes. If you're obese, you went through a lot. So I would like to go back again and tell me about that period of time when you actually felt really low, and how did I feel? How did you feel around that time? And when did you decide that like it's enough for you?
Yeah, I think it was because I mentioned when I went into high school, that's when I lost the weight. It was like the transition from 8th grade to high school. And I remember I loved basketball, still love basketball. So I was on the basketball team, and it was just like carrying around all the weight, doing like full court basketball, running up and down. And that was really like my pain for me, was like, oh, I can't even do something I love to do. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I was actually good at. Like it's kind of funny, although I was overweight, I always felt like I was 6 feet tall my whole life. Although this isn't like I'm so tall, but so for someone my frame, it was kind of more dispersed, and people would be like, "Oh, you're not fat," or like you're not. Can I say fat nowadays? I don't know. Of course. But like. Yeah, they would tell me, oh, you don't have to feel that way about yourself, but it's like, no, I felt that way. But so that actually like added to it more in a way, when people would tell me like, oh, no, you shouldn't feel this way, but like internally I did feel pain. But yeah, it really just stemmed from me not being able to do the thing that I love to do, was to play sports, play basketball. And I knew like going into high school, that was like a new chapter in my life. So I was like, with this new chapter, I really want to like change myself, and I really need to get away from feeling the way that I felt, like being on the basketball court and feeling out of breath, and feeling bad about myself, and just feeling inadequate, and not keeping up with the other kids. And naturally, as a athlete, you're competitive, and ultimately my desire to continue to be competitive allowed me to lose weight.
Based on your experience, because you went through that, do you think that people change the most when they feel the lowest?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're at rock bottom, there's nowhere else to go. It's like trying to save money. You can only pinch pennies so much. There's only one direction you need to go from there. So I think I just, at that point, I was at my lowest, and I was just like, I got to get out of here.
How do you approach this when it comes to your clients? Like, how do you help them to understand themselves on a deeper level? Do you think that people have to understand themselves on a deeper level in order to change? And how you approach this when it comes to your job right now?
Yeah, and I think, like, I do tell them my story. I think telling them my story, telling them my transformation really can inspire them and recognize when they are at that, lower point in their life. I wouldn't say like a lot of my clients have hit that low point. I would say generally speaking, I'm working with people who have experience with training, have experience with, being fit at some point in their life. I'm trying to think to a more recent time or a more recent example. I've had some people who have, fluctuated with their weight, and they've kind of been through my journey multiple times. So it's actually interesting seeing that person who has hit bottom and they can kind of like get their way out of it. But I think it's almost harder to stay, I don't want to say at the top, but it is easy to fall back into that level of pain that they've experienced before.
Why do you think it's that?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I'm trying to think of why, like, because there's a few people where, like, I've worked with them for many years, and they'll kind of like go through these cycles, like, yo-yo dieting and binge eating and all the things that I experienced like earlier on in my life. And I think it's not not striving for new goals. I think everyone just kind of keeps the same goal. Oh, it's just like, I want to look good. I want to look good, look better at the beach, taking my shirt off or whatever it is. And I think like they're not setting new goals for themselves, whether it's like a performance goal or like there's certain events coming up. I think people always need to be acquiring new skills or reaching new goals. And it doesn't always have to be that weight goal. Like, for example, I have a client right now. He was just like, I really want to specialize in like growing my quads. And I think it's so different from the norm of his usual, like, I want to look lean in the summer and like, bigger in the winter. Now it's like he wants to focus on one specific thing, and he's actually so excited to be doing that because it's so different to him. So I think like with someone who is struggling with weight issues, sometimes it might be better as a trainer, and now I'm actually talking about it right now and I'm recognizing this is maybe what I should do with this particular person, is to give them more of a performance goal, give them more of like an event-based goal than just like, oh, I want to look good right now.
That's not enough, right?
It's sometimes just not. Like, maybe weight isn't the most fulfilling thing. Like for me, actually, the weight was secondary to me being good at basketball and like maintaining my athleticism than it was the actual weight itself.
How do you keep your weight right now? Do you have bad moments when your body wants to go back maybe to comfort zone, that you were there for a long time and that you felt awful and you felt bad? Do you still have those moments when you want to go back? When, of course, all of us, we have bad times in our life, and we usually tend to go back to some specific routines or bad decisions when it comes to even our body or our health. How do you maintain to keep to be in shape and to keep your mind on the right spot?
That's actually a good point. You mentioned the mind. Right now, in terms of like what I actually do, I like to track my calories. I've been doing that since about like 2016. So tracking my calories pretty diligently, but being in the practice of that, doing that for multiple years, has allowed me to like really assess how much I could actually eat and how much food I can actually consume. And that does give me peace of mind, because before, when I was struggling with my weight, even after I lost weight, I struggled with that kind of binge eating aspect where like I would undereat during the week and then overeat on the weekends. And now I found this really awesome balance of like enjoying the foods that I love because it just fits within a budget. I know we are going to talk about finances, but calories are just like a bank account. And for me, that really like is easy to conceptualize. And like knowing I could eat whatever I want as long as it fits within my energy requirements really gives me peace of mind. So I can go out on the weekends and enjoy what I want. And I can have a pint of Haagen-Dazs in the freezer and have a serving and leave it in there, as opposed to before I'd be like, I have to get rid of it, I have to eat it all, and because I'm never going to have Haagen-Dazs again. And like, that was never ever the truth. When the weekend came around, the next weekend I would have it now, but nowadays, like, I could have those bad foods in my apartment and feel comfortable. I don't feel like it has control over me. And I know a lot of people might say that counting calories can be obsessive, and it can be for some, but for me, I like the idea of like having that budget. I like the idea of, knowing what's going into my body, and I like the idea of like enjoying those quote unquote bad foods in moderation, because that's going to give me the satisfaction to continue this journey, because this journey is going to be forever.
Jared, it looks like you created a great system for you. How to approach our clients to create a system for them? That's the question that it's like very difficult for trainers. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've been talking to a lot of them, and we do talk about this a lot, and who achieve goals, who are our clients who cannot achieve their goals, and what are their goals are, and stuff like that. My question to you is, do you believe that we have to approach their life from a little early on to know what our clients went through maybe in their childhood, and maybe I know we are not a therapy.
Yeah.
We kind of are.
Maybe.
But I'm talking about, we're not going to fix that. But do you believe the trainers need to know a little bit more about human psychology and traumas and all of this in order to help our clients to approach their fitness goals?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, even in my financial coaching, actually, we talk about their upbringing, what was their childhood like, and around talking about money, around talking about finances. So the same thing happens with fitness. I mean, most of my struggles are because of, how my mom treated her eating habits, how my sister treated her eating habits. Like, my parents were divorced. So I lived with my mom and sister, and, how my mom would tell me not to eat certain things, and like how she was always like reading some new diet, or like, reading about some, weird fitness program that really didn't make sense at the time, now that I'm looking back at it. And it's all because of like how my parents viewed it. I mentioned my father was morbidly obese, like how his eating habits like, kind of fell into my lap. So I think really understanding people's childhood around any of these issues, like I said, fitness, finance, etc., is going to allow you to develop a better program, allow you to develop a better understanding of like what makes your client tick and like why they are ticking that way.
Yeah, I totally agree, and this is the reason why I ask this question, because I feel like as a trainers, if we have clients who come to us and say, I want to lose weight, I want to gain muscle, or these specific goals that everyone wants, 99.9% of people.
Yeah.
If you just say, I have a best program for you, I have a best, workout for you, and I'm going to give you some few tips when it comes to food, 100% I believe we cannot help these people if we don't know like what actually happened in their life, why they have a problem and issues and stuff like that. Cool. Thank you for answering all these questions. We're gonna go through now. We're gonna walk me through your financial journey.
Let's do it.
You started like very interesting approach to actually help trainers to invest in finance. I really like that, and tell me something more about it.
So, in terms of like maybe my origin or like why I'm like kind of doing that.
Correct.
So, I'm going to try and make this as quick and as brief as I can, but, in my mid-20s, I would like to say I was like I'm a successful trainer now. I think most people here are like all doing well for themselves, and I was doing well at the time, but I really was irresponsible with a lot of my finances. And I think like we can kind of like juxtapose, my diet early on in my life with the way I sort of was spending my money. It was like sort of like the financial version of yo-yo dieting, and I would just look forward to the weekend and like really binge on the weekend. So it's a lot of like consumption. I really didn't know where a lot of my money was going. And for all of the hard work, the early mornings, the late nights of training sessions, I was like, dude, I have no money. Like I'm not quite sure like where my future lies, and why am I doing all of this work for for really nothing? Like I was never actually paying myself. I was never setting aside money for myself, for my future. And I felt that my irresponsibility around my finances started to really affect my health choices. I started to get into that like anger stage, and like feel like I was a victim to the system, whether it was me having like student debt, credit card debt. It was like nothing was ever my fault. And the more angry I got, the more like I just looked forward to the weekend, and I just did lots of partying, and that's all I really like focused on, was like, how could I get through the week? How could I train all these people and then just like do drugs and alcohol on the weekend? And then like, where is that going? Where is that money going? Nowhere. Into my liver and into my nose, if you know what I mean. I don't do that anymore. But sorry, Mom. If she's going to watch this. But yeah, it was just like a lot of irresponsible spending. And I remember at the time, one of my clients, he was like, oh, I manage these hotel gyms, or I manage these hotels, and we have this gym in one of the hotels, and I want you to bring your clients there because I want to make this place exciting. I want to make this place like bumping. And he pretty much like handed me a business, like this ball of fire, like was like laid into my lap. And I was like, geez, like I have no idea what to do here. So I ended up like working with one of my friends. He was studying to be a lawyer, and he had a financial degree, and we kind of like went over a whole financial system to, manage my clients, manage my finances. And I started to bring on trainers into this hotel space. So they would all pay me. They would pay the house, and I would have to pay out them or pay them out. So I needed to basically make a financial system that kind of worked and, manage all of these other trainers. And that kind of like started my interest in, managing finances, investing for the future, and like really allowed me to see like, okay, like this is something I need to be more responsible about. And then through that whole experience, through a lot of my mistakes, really led me to where I am today. I always wanted to, as I excelled in my career, as I got busier as a trainer, as I became more successful, I always wanted to mentor younger trainers. And I figured this was a great way to do it, because we don't have a lot of business experience. Trainers, you can get a certification in one weekend and literally have no business experience, not sure how to like manage your money. If you're a freelance trainer, small business owner, we don't have corporate benefits to set aside money for taxes, pay our taxes, save money, invest for our future, whether it's a retirement plan or just like your own individual investment account. We don't have these systems in place. So I felt like it was my calling, through my whole experience, through all my mistakes, to really pass this knowledge along and system along to other trainers, so we could ultimately not stress around finances and help our clients become healthier, stronger. And that's just a way of me giving back to other people.
Oh, this is amazing. Great. So how do you, so now you have you're doing social media. So it's pretty amazing. I like your posts and stuff.
Thanks.
Do you have a coach?
Do I have a coach like for my like business? I've worked with 2 business coaches. My first one was my mentor for financial coaching, who was a financial advisor actually. Not anymore. Like once you're not at a firm, you can't be a financial advisor. But at the time he was a financial advisor. So he mentored me on my financial coaching program that was specifically tailored for trainers. He does the same thing for tattoo artists.
Oh, wow.
He was a tattoo artist who became a financial advisor. And then he had the same idea that I had for trainers. Same type of thing, right? We're all kind of like lone wolves, so to speak. Like we're all just kind of like on our own. Tattoo artists are like, sort of like fuck the system type people. And I think like a little bit of trainers are too, right? Like we operate independently. So there was a lot of like overlap there. So we really hit it off, and he taught me a lot about marketing. He taught me a lot about like the creative process when it comes to social media. And he's I think I like to call him a savage dude. He's like really motivated, self-motivated, and like I saw a lot of myself in him. And like you asked me about like having a business coach, and I think like if I were to say a trainer who's listening to this who wants to get a business coach, like really like the person, really see yourself in that person. Because I've worked with other business coaches that it's just like this mass program and system, and they have like, you know, this whole group format, and it's just like this money making machine, and like that's cool that that person's making money, but like the quality gets diluted and it almost feels like scammy in a way. And like nowadays you see a lot of these business coaches just like kind of popping up because a person can join that business coaching program to be a business coach. So it almost becomes like this multi-level marketing scheme in a way, especially like a person who wants to do fitness marketing. So it's like they're just teaching this fitness marketing program. So I think like be aware of like some of these business coaches out there. Obviously you want to like choose quality, but I think it really comes down to like, do you work well with that specific person? And like that's really what I found with my mentor, my coach. So, you know, just find someone that like that really resonates with you and your values.
If someone is a trainer and comes to you and saw your Instagram post and want to invest money or have you help him to set up his finance and stuff, what is the step number one?
Step number one is really understanding, of course, being as transparent as they can about how much they make per month. You know, I think a lot of trainers overestimate their income and underestimate their expenses. But ultimately, like when it comes down to my program specifically, it centers around mindset, their vision. You know, this could be like their vision and goals and their systems. So really understanding their mindset, and that starts with their upbringing, you know, what their limiting beliefs are and what their supporting beliefs are. You know, once I kind of like dissect all of that, then I could focus on more of like the tangible items, their future goals and their systems. What was the original question? I feel like I went off.
Yeah. I said like if the trainer comes and said, okay, what is the step number one?
What's step number one? Got it. Yeah, it really is like understanding that upbringing, and like, you know, like I mentioned, they'll overestimate their income and underestimate their expenses, and I think it really does start with that upbringing, their mindset, and like, you know, why do they think that way? Why are they overestimating that stuff? You know, why are they underestimating it?
There's a lot of psychology there too.
There is. Yeah. Maybe it's just like pride. You know, sometimes I get on like the initial call with some people and I do ask them like a lot of specific questions about their income, and later on when I come to actually work with that person, it's like, oh, they totally, you know, weren't even aware that they were spending these types of things, or they don't make as much as they said they would, or like 6 weeks into my 12-week program, they're like, oh, I have this bill with the IRS. It's like, well, why were you keeping that a secret? You know, and like really I need to understand that within the first 1 to 2 weeks, like why are they keeping those secrets? So it really does start with the mindset.
And what's next step after that? Once you have this mindset, they tell you, they're very transparent about their income and stuff, and you see the expenses. How do you set it up? Like how you set up the next step?
So the next step is really starting to build that foundation, and that is the money mapping system. So that is my signature system. So the foundation is setting up 5 bank accounts, where each bank account is designed to a specific area in your life, and we allocate specific percentages to that area in your life. So you have your business, you have your personal expenses, you have your living expenses, you have your savings, which is essentially where you pay yourself. You know, we could put money through this whole system, but if some percentage of your money isn't going to your savings, like you're not actually paying yourself, because you're spending on personal things, spending on living expenses. And then we have that final account, which is like all of your investment accounts. It really, at minimum, we need one, but it could be obviously multiple accounts. So that's really the foundation of my system, is having 5 bank accounts where money is just automatically flowing through those accounts. Because I teach this in my course, movement is survival. You know, animals migrate to better climates to survive and, you know, catch prey and people move because we need to be healthy, we need to be stronger, we need to, have blood flowing through our body, and like that's what makes us feel invigorated, and money is no different than that. Because if money is stagnant, it's just sitting in your bank account, it's just going to deteriorate over time. Like we've heard about inflation the last like 3 years, but that shit's been happening forever. It's not just the last 3 years. Yeah, it's really high, and that's unfortunate, and probably a whole other thing I could talk about forever, but inflation's always going to be there. It's the invisible tax that we don't talk about. So if you're not moving your money around, you're basically your money's dying. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm really big on like stressing that in the beginning of my course is movement is survival, and the more we can move your money around, the more you're going to thrive, and the more money you're going to make, and the wealthier you're going to be.
You say moving your money around. Mm-hmm. Can you go a little specifically about this detail? So is that like moving from one account to the other, or like it's more investing in a few different things?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, because like if you kind of think about it, it's almost like a waterfall effect. Mm-hmm. Money goes into your business account, and then like if it's just sloshing around in one account, that's when you're going to be like, oh, I have a lot of money. Like I could go spend on this TV, or like this new MacBook, or whatever it might be. But like if you start separating it and compartmentalizing it in different areas, and it's like through automated transfers, it becomes a lot more clear for you. It becomes a lot more like, okay, this money is for my personal need, my personal wants. This money is for my rent. This money is going towards my future, whether it's a Roth IRA, whether it's just like a simple high yield savings account. Really like having that movement provides more clarity for you. Mm-hmm. It might seem like, oh well, that's confusing, I'm not sure where everything's going, but the way I sort of visualize the money mapping system for the client, for the trainer, for the person that's working with me, they really start to understand like, oh, this money is clear, like this is for this is for that. But like I said, if it's all just in one account, you might even feel just overwhelmed by it. You might feel like, oh wow, I have all this money, I'm not even quite sure what to do with it. But my system eliminates all of those questions. It makes everything as automated as possible, so that way you're clear around your finances. What money is not yours, because we're setting aside money for taxes, which even that is just a huge mental block. I've found that one of the biggest problems for small business owners in general is just not separating money that's theirs and not theirs. And most times when trainers, because I'll get on like a clarity session, I call it. It's basically like a financial assessment. Mm-hmm. when I first meet a trainer, and like at the end of the session, like maybe I make my pitch. If I think they're a good fit to work with me, I tell them about my program. I tell them how much the investment is to work with me. And then sometimes I might get like, oh, it's not the right time, I got to think about it. Let me ask my wife, let me ask my husband, etc. Whatever.
The same way selling personal training.
Exactly. Sessions. Yeah, same thing. Oh, yeah, exactly. It's not the right time, I think, is like something that we hear all the time when it comes to fitness. But a year later, they'll come back to me, and they'll work with me, and the number one reason is taxes. They didn't set aside money for taxes. They were hit with a huge tax bill, and they were like, oh man, maybe I don't know where my money is going. Maybe I am not as clear around my finances as I thought I would. So often the biggest problem is you aren't clear on your finances because it's not moving around as much as you think it should.
Great. A lot of finance situation here. Yeah, I like it a lot. So you want to say that even I want to mention this because I feel a lot of trainers are not doing this, and I think we can bring some value here for them, and also at the same time they can be more clear about their rest of their like things in their life, not just about finance and stuff, but this helps also to be better trainers, to be better, in your relationship and everything else, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you don't do this part, and a lot of trainers are not actually good with money, even though we successful trainers here, they can make a lot, but if they're not, you are saying if they're not putting their money on the side like the way they should, It's not really important how much money we make. What do you think when it comes to like people's personality? Like some people are spenders and some people are not. How much do you help them to understand this, and how do you approach this kind of problem?
That's a good question, and I know you're asking what's the first thing I do. I said mindset, and that's really where I get to understand like what type of person they are. You know, some people feel productive by spending money, like my mom. Like she'll always call me when she's like on the way to the mall, and she'll be like, "Oh, I'm on the way to the mall, and I'm gonna buy this bag." And like, for me, like I understand her mindset. She thinks that's like doing something. She thinks that's accomplishing something, and that's gonna give her a sense of accomplishment. And like, she acquired this thing, and like she earned it. And I want to know, like, oh, is that gonna make that person tick? Like, you know, a trainer who buys like new kicks all the time, or like, you know, new workout attire. Like, is that, you know, why is that giving that person satisfaction? And like, that's when we really need to adjust their like almost like mental operating system. We need to like track each step. Like, why are you going, you know, why is walking to the store making you feel productive? Why is actually like waiting online to check out making you feel productive? And like, how could we rewire that system towards other things? Like whether it's buying assets, you know, like, can we give you that same sense of accomplishment by like buying a stock or buying an ETF? And oftentimes we do, because when that stock or ETF appreciates in value or gives you a dividend payment, which is passive income, that there's a new level of satisfaction. You're like, oh, this thing actually gives back to me. And like, that takes time. That's why my program is 12 weeks. That's why investing is like watching paint dry on the wall. Like once that starts to change, or even like investing is almost like watching your lawn grow. I mean, if you're going to look at it every day, you're not going to actually see it. But like after a week, after a month, you're like, oh wow, something's actually here. So like, once we can change that person's like operating system around how they feel about making those purchases, and like kind of shift that towards acquiring more assets that give them more wealth, that's when I kind of see those big changes compound.
Where can people find you?
People could find me on Instagram, jared.aquilina. They can find me at the gym other times. But yeah, I would say Instagram is probably the best place to find me and reach out to me.
Great. I know you have a training sessions.
Yes.
Training session right now, so we're going to be done in a minute.
Okay.
I just want to ask you, is there anything we didn't cover? I know we have so many things to cover today, so much.
Yeah.
And we're going to probably see each other probably one more time.
For sure.
But I would like to ask you, is there anything you want to cover that we didn't cover?
I would say like the investing portion, it's something I could really talk about for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I think naturally people are fearful of what they don't understand, and the stock market, investing, whether it's real estate or just in the stock market, as I mentioned, is something that there's so much information on, but that doesn't provide a lot of clarity, you know. And I think like the way I teach people to invest and generate more passive income does provide a lot of clarity. So that's something I would love to elaborate on, because a lot of trainers need that system to ultimately retire one day, because I don't see a lot of trainers that are like 65 years old. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's not because they're retired. That's because like they found something else to do, because they can't be training at that age. So the more we can kind of plan for our future, the more we could help our clients and like really, because that's what it's. I know I'm like going off, but I ultimately like, the more we could like build wealth for our future, the less anxiety about we have our future, and like really help more people get fit, because that's what it's all about.
Are you more passionate about finance or training right now? Be honest with me. I know your clients are going to watch this.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to admit this, but definitely finances. I think my fitness a little bit, my own personal fitness has taken a backseat to like really expand my financial coaching business. But I still love training. I never not love training. I never wake up any day and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go train today. Mm-hmm. Every day I wake up, I want to train. And I think like a lot of trainers feel that way. But the ones who don't, I really firmly believe it's because they don't have their finances in check.
Jared, thank you so much for these very, very valuable insights. I feel like a lot of people are going to learn, and a lot of people reach out to you for help now, and I'm very glad for that. At the same time, I'm very happy for you that you found your path, that you are going through all of this, and you're really passionate about it. I can see that. There is nothing to hide here. It's this is why I like podcasts, because you can feel the people's energy, and I can sense that you are very passionate and you love doing this.
I appreciate it.
I wish you all the best, and hopefully I'm gonna see you here again and go and train your client right now. Thank you so much.
We're gonna do it.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, dude. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.